And you're still here on Newday on TV3. Welcome to The Big Issue. This morning, as you might have heard us earlier during our conversation before now, we talked about the fact that the minority is raising issue. Members of the minority are raising issues about that pronouncement by the communications minister in that press conference earlier last month that there is a possibility of Telecel Ghana managing the asset of AirtelTigo, and the fact that there needed to be clarity in terms of the advice from the transaction advisor. The minority is claiming that this whole project is shrouded in secrecy, and the government is rejecting a $150 million deal from Afritel and rather choosing to go for a $50 million deal from Telecel Ghana. And information we are gathering actually again is that this supposed agreement, which is yet to come to fruition, already would see the measure or combined measure of Telecel's shares, which is about 18.3%, representing about 7.29 million subscribers with 87.9% share. That's about 3.15 million subscribers, and would eventually result in a combined subscriber base of about 10.44 million and a 26.1% market share, making it the second largest player after MTN. There are some reports out there again, and hopefully we'll get clarity on that, in indicating that the integration process would be in about 3 phases. Technical migration, we are told, or nearly complete, with some 3.2 million AT customers moved to Telecel's infrastructure, human resource alignment, among others. And so we'll be delving into that and really what this means moving forward. We'll be joined via video call by Mohammed A. Suparu, who is Deputy Communications Minister, and hopefully he should be joining us soon, as well as Gloria Foribwedu, who is Managing Legal Practitioner, GOB Law Consult. But of course, I do have in the studio with us Madam Gabriela Tete. She's Central Regional Communications Director of the Governing National Democratic Congress. Good morning to you, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes, we also have with us as well Madam Rodelyn Imoro Ayana. She is Public Interest Advocate. Ma'am, good morning to you. It's great to have you as well.
Great to be here too.
Yes. So before we go into the conversation, let me bring you that press conference held by the Communications Minister Sam Nate George just last month, so you hear the details.
Very, very clear on this, because we've seen media reportage. This is not a merger. It is also not an acquisition. We're dealing with a force majeure situation, and the work of the transaction advisor and the recommendations from their report will lay out a clear path for the consideration of
the conduct of the Minister of Communication and his action over the past 6 months since he resumed office has put the industry in a jeopardy and has particularly diminished the value of the only wholly Ghanaian-owned telecommunication company, which is AT. Honorable Esla Owusu, in the mid-2021, announced a plan to recapitalize and modernize AT, focusing on network expansion, digital service, and rural connectivity. Why do you reject a $1 billion investment proposal from Recton and yet celebrate a $50 million upgrade from Telecel? The telecom market of over 1.3 million per month requires competition and not duopoly, which will effectively operate as a monopoly. Currently, AT has the most competitive billing rate for voice, which serves majority of low-income. Ask the President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, to direct his Minister for Communication to focus on making AT work rather than hastily trying to dispose it of. We are also sending a strong and unequivocal caution to Telecel Group that any attempt to acquire a strategic state asset through unlawful, non-transparent, or irregular means will not only lack legitimacy, but will also attracts severe consequences in the future. We are therefore demanding an immediate stop to the current consolidation, acquisition, merger, or transaction.
And you watched right there the ranking member on the Communications Committee of Parliament. He's a member of the minority in Parliament, Matthew Nyindam. So let's watch exactly how we got here in terms of the timelines regarding the acquisition of AirtelTigo and why we are where we are. Yes, so in April 2021, the government, led by the then Communications Minister, Esla Owusu Ekuful, acquired about 100% of AirtelTigo for, as we were told by Esla Owusu then, $1. US dollar, assuming some 3.5 billion Ghana cedi debt amidst severe financial distress. From April, we moved to June 2023, where AirtelTigo rebranded to AT Ghana, and Hanam Investment UK partnered to find network upgrades and 4G expansion. Again, in 2023, in November, there was a joint venture with Hanan Investment, which was launched to enhance services. Some 300 employees were retained. In February to March 2024, AT Ghana remained fully state-owned 100%, but started merger talks with Telecel Ghana. 2024. Again, in June 2025 this year, the government announced a merger plan with Telecel Ghana to rival MTN, backed by a proposed $600 million US investment. And in 2025, September, KPMG appointed as merger advisor. Plan covers some 3.2 million customers, 300 employees, and 120-day restructuring. And in October, in this month, the measure still pending approval, AT Ghana holds some 781.8 million Ghana cedi assets and 3.56 billion Ghana cedi liabilities and a 2.78 billion equity while operating at a loss. And so there you have it, the details, and like I did tell you, we'll be breaking down the details we've given you and really where we are at this stage. Remember that in the course of the conversation, we'll also be telling you about the proposal by the Education Minister, Haruna Idrisu, to convert some Category B schools to A to help deal with the pressure associated with finding placement for some senior high school students, as we've witnessed over the last few weeks. Let me acknowledge that Madam Gloria Ofori Buedu, the managing legal practitioner with GOB Law Consult, has joined us via video call. Good morning to you, ma'am, if you can hear us. Thank you also for joining us. Okay, we can't hear you. I think you're muted. If you can unmute yourself, so we're ready to, when we're ready to come to you, you can give us your thoughts. But I want to start with you, Madam Gabriela Tete. And we just watched the minister there in that press conference insisting that this was not an acquisition, it was neither a measure, and rather described it as a force majeure situation. And if we had it earlier, when we watched the press conference, he continued to say that we're waiting for the transaction advisor to lay a clear path. If you can bring us clarity exactly on where we are, because the minority is already raising issues with what was announced earlier.
All right, let me say a good morning to our viewers. Special good morning to the good people of the Central Region, especially the NDC fraternity. Good morning to you as well. My first time meeting you, but I do watch you. You're a very brilliant young lady.
Thank you very much, ma'am. It's great to have you here.
Don't call me ma'am. I'm not that old.
Yes.
Call me Gabi.
Yes, Gabi, yes.
Yes. So the Airtel merger and presumed Telecel, whatever it is. You know, I'm happy that you did a bit of a timeline to bring viewers to speed on what the past has been like with the Airtel and Tigo partnership. But there are certain details that you've left out. In 2017 to 2018, when Airtel took over Tigo, when they had their partnership, what happened was that partnership was not very successful because not only did the company lose subscribers, they were recording year-on-year debt increases and heavy losses. So as their debt was increasing, their losses was also increasing.
So let me pause you here. You're saying that after Airtel took over Tigo,
yes,
Airtel began seeing losses.
Yes, AirtelTigo. And why did that happen? It was because they were operating in a very difficult business environment. Now you are competing against a brand like MTN, which is a powerhouse when it comes to mobile technology across the continent, even, other places where they have across the globe. And so that partnership in itself struggled. Now, when government took over that partnership, government, in what the MPP in their press conference, what the gentleman mentioned was that Eslo Usu came up with a plan. You see, there's a difference between coming up with a plan and actually executing a plan. Now, in the case where you come up with a plan, which you said you are taking over this company, forget that you took it over for $1. There was still a $3.5 billion debt in the books of this Airtel-Tigo partnership. Whose liability is it? Government. That was the part that you people were not paying attention to. Secondly, with that kind of debt, you owe suppliers, including ATC, that they are accusing Sam George of not paying on time. A myriad of service providers who this company was indebted to. Now, in 2023, when government took over, what injection, and I'm talking financial injection, did government, under the NPP administration, with Madam Eslo-Usu, and this NPP minority who are now coming to advise us, what pragmatic solution did they offer Ghanaians, especially the subscribers of AirtelTigo? In the last year alone, AirtelTigo subscribers fell from 10 million to 4.6 million. Astronomical. I was telling the Auntie Rhoda a few seconds ago, the chip in my tablet is AirtelTigo. The mast is just 2 blocks from my house, and yet I can go two weeks without service. It just pops up, it pops off, it pops up, it pops off. I mean, you have to really love Tigo. You must want an alternative to follow AirtelTigo. But be it as it may, there's a problem now, which is that AirtelTigo is recording heavy losses. They need investments in infrastructure. What do we do? First of all, to show up that the 4.6 million subscribers left on the system, whose monies are sitting on mobile money wallets, and who are dependent on this, because some people have emotional attachment to numbers, so they're not able to just shift to other networks. So what do we do to keep these people there? Keep the 300 people who are employed in AT. How are we going to keep this company afloat for the time being? And government said that, okay, now we have some shares in Telecel. So what we are going to do is that in the interim, your infrastructure is dilapidated. We don't have the resources to put money into you right now, but we are going to let you ride on Telecel's infrastructure. And that is where that partnership first came in.
And I'll let you continue with that. I just want to take you back to what your reporting Ursula to have said. Because in that communication earlier, she claimed that indeed the debt had been forgiven, as it were, with a lot of media houses saying that, and even insisting on her Facebook page that at the time, now Minister for Communications... And
then after that, how much did you really put in to invest?
Sam George...
The company needed the investment.
Yes, Sam George had said that we're acquiring it for some $25 million. And she came to dismiss that and said that just go and sleep because we acquired this for $1.
And if you remember, not to cut you, but if you remember, the same Sam George called her, I think it was deputy ranking or ranking in the minority.
Ranking, yes.
You remember that they invited her to come and answer questions on the floor of Parliament. On 3 occasions, the woman did not show up.
Yes, so let me land on what she said. So like I said, the debt was like forgiving, and even said that the minority was making noise because they didn't believe that a government could make such a good deal. Now, in an interview with CNBC,
because now we see where we are.
CNBC, she also said that the government was going to invest in AirtelTigo, and it had a value of over $1 billion. You're saying that propaganda. She told us lies?
Yes, it was propaganda. And that is why AirtelTigo is in crisis today. Because if all the things that they were saying they were going to do. If they had done it, we won't have this crisis on our hands. What Sam George explained, that this is like a force majority takeover. As I've told you, there are subscribers whose lines and whose money is sitting on the fintech side of Airtel that we are trying to protect. There's government investment from the past that we've taken over this company. It's sitting there. So how do we preserve AirtelTigo whilst we look at how do we solve the problem? Now, the proposal with Telecel is not a final proposal. Currently, as we speak, there's KPMG, which has been engaged by the Ministry of Communication as financial advisors, who are working on the roadmap on whether we should have AirtelTigo stand alone, and now with investment or we find new partnership. Doesn't necessarily have to be Telecel. Whether we are going for a public-private partnership, and now that AirtelTigo is 100% government-owned, any other partnership that comes on board, it could be a PPP arrangement. Or whether we're going to have a management contract with whoever comes on board, and that also includes, or may not include, Telecel. So the decision with Telecel is not being finalized. Now, in the minorities press conference, they shot themselves in the foot. In fact, they ran ahead of themselves unnecessarily. And I want to ask the minority a question. Currently, when I was listening to them yesterday, live on TV, whose interests are they pursuing? According to them, this Canadian company offered government of Ghana $150 million and additional $1 billion investment. The MOU that the Ministry of Communications signed with the Canadians did not have any $1 billion mentioned anywhere. They should tell us where they got that $1 billion figure from. Additionally, they should also tell us, me as a floater, a citizen of Ghana, I'm interested in the minority. They should tell us whose interests are they really pursuing with this press conference. They said they are the committee on something. Even me, common floor member, I know how far this deal has reached. You, who is sitting in Parliament, expect people to come and report to you. You don't know that KPMG has not finished their work.
They're saying that this whole thing is shrouded in secrecy.
Where's the secrecy?
And you are not doing this in the interest of the Ghanaian people.
When a transaction advisor has been engaged to give us a credible road, is KPMG a blue kiosk? Forgive all blue kiosks, forgive me, but this is just an expression. Is KPMG a blue kiosk consultancy? Is that not an international firm with global repute, known to transact all over the globe? So we're not dealing with a barber shop and saloon, a consultant. We are dealing with credible people, credible institutions to advise us on the way forward. And as I've mentioned to you, KPMG has not finished their work. The minority should wait. When KPMG is done with the report, it will be presented to Cabinet, government will review it, government will take a decision, will bring it to Parliament. They'll have the opportunity to ask all the questions. But now as it stands, and the way they were forcing to pack data and money into that Canadian company, I am very suspicious of this minority. I believe that they are pursuing the interests of the Canadian company. They should all wait. The right thing is being done. We are resetting. And we've asked the people of Ghana voted for NDC because they expect right things to be done. The subscribers of AirtelTigo, of which I am one, we want better services, not 2 weeks today, 2 weeks tomorrow. No. I want proper service. I have a mobile wallet on that. I don't know how much is on it, but I have it. So everybody should be patient. We are working on it. The Ministry of Communication is on top of issues. The right time, the information will be shared, and we'll all know the way forward on this project.
Let me take you a little bit back again before I go to Madam Gloria for everybody for some response before I come to you, Madam Ayana. You're claiming that at the time the AirtelTigo deal, the initial one, was signed, the business had a very difficult environment. But at that time, you would remember that when we talk about COVID-19 and the repercussions, the MPP has kept saying that the economy was doing quite fine until late 2019 when COVID struck and 2020 and all the rippling effects. So how do you mean by the difficult environment you talk about?
When it comes to business, data is what speaks, not any government propaganda. And the data showed that consistently from 2021, this company has been making record losses. In fact, the figure is not really in my head, but I think they were within the region of 180 to 240 million. And every year, it keeps increasing.
No, I'm talking about 2017, 2018, when the original Airtel and Tigo deal was signed. And you say that immediately after they did that, Airtel Tigo had difficulties because the environment was bad. And I'm saying
But
within that
you are
period...
competing with a giant like MTN. MTN at that time was not sitting down and watching Airtel Tigo. Airtel Tigo has come into the market, so they are sitting down. MTN was doing all kinds of promotions. They were sponsoring all kinds of programs, including your shows here. They were increasing their mileage. They were giving a subscriber, you buy data, get how much percent bonus. They were doing all kinds of things to excite people to their brand. What was Airtel Tigo doing? I don't work with them. I don't know the full details of what exactly they were doing, but I could see what MTN was doing. And I know that you don't need rocket science to know how this thing is going to turn out for any business.
Madam,
What is it? Telecel and the Airtel Tigo, that bit of a merger.
It is not a merger.
What is it?
What they have now is that Airtel, because as I mentioned to you, because of the lack of investment in Airtel's infrastructure, AT's infrastructure, AT government has now resolved that AT has to ride on Telecel's infrastructure. So in terms of roaming services, so for example, if you are going to a place like Dentra, where maybe Airtel doesn't have a mast, but Telecel has, that sharing now allows you, the AT subscriber, to still have access to your data and your mobile services because you are now running on their service. So that is how we've tried to solve a technical problem whilst we look at the bigger picture of how do we address Airtel Tigo. Because we don't want to sell Airtel Tigo.
and I want to come to you, Madam Ayana, because let me quote Mr. Nyindam at that press conference yesterday, where he said the minister's management of this transaction lacks transparency and proper direction. It is riddled with inconsistencies and self-interest and risks handing over a critical national asset to a private foreign company without accountability. He went on to even talk about the fact that there will be job losses and all of that, and we don't seem to have clarity on that. How do you react to that as a public interest advocate?
I'd like to say good morning to our viewers. Good morning to those of us here. You know, when I heard the minorities statement, I just had a good laugh. And it's good that there's something called history. So we go back into history and then we get the details. And so let's start off from 2006, when Vodafone, which is now Telecel, was being put on the market. It was the same thing. The minority group then also came out with a statement that they didn't think it was a good idea. It was full of inconsistencies. What? It also came out in 2006.
When the NDC was a minority.
When the NDC was a minority. And Vodafone was being let onto the market. Vodafone, I think when it was coming, when that idea was brought up, everybody was not happy. Because at that time, if you looked at the assets of Ghana Telecom, and then to be told that at that time, Ghana Telecom was being sold for $900 million with dollars.
Yes.
And with other things coming in, you come to about 1.3 billion, right? That was then. And it's supposed to appreciate. You understand? We are supposed to have had a very vibrant telecom service from Vodafone. That was what we were told. We were being told that Vodafone was coming in to help us. I'm just building a point because, you see, at the end of it, we went to court. As a member of the CPP, we went to court based on one issue and one issue only. Agreed, Vodafone had been sold, but the fiber optics were not sold to Vodafone, and Vodafone took it. That would have solved this problem we are having now. You understand? Of trying to merge the two of them together. Ghana would have owned the fiber optics, but we sold Vodafone to
Ghana
Telecom to Vodafone. And then, apparently, the contract did not include the fiber optics, which is the nerve of the telecom service. But what happened? We went to courts for God knows how many years. The case is still in courts, trying to get Ghana to own the fiber optics. So I am asking, at that time, when we were talking about inconsistencies, this Vodafone contracts, let me tell you, we signed a contract in Parliament for Vodafone UK. And then it was then, I think, the government signed for Vodafone UK and Parliament ratified for Vodafone Holland. So as we sit, we don't know who we signed that document with. In our investigations during our court case, we found out that some of the contracts were even signed in hotel rooms with different names. Inconsistency, that's what I want them to know, if they're talking about
The
inconsistency.
former President Kufuor, who
Yes,
led this
who
whole
was
initiative,
MPP.
would disagree with you.
Oh no, she might disagree
and
with
even
me.
in 2014 and the years
People,
after, he
even
still
the years
defended it.
after, he still defended it. Even the opposition now, the vice president, came out and said that it was a good deal.
Said it was a strategic
deal. The president at that time, Nana Akufo-Addo, said it was a strategic deal. But you and I know that Vodafone has not lived up to expectations. Even though Vodafone took the whole lot of assets that Ghana Telecom had.
Is that not why Dr. Bawumia said that it was strategic? Because then we sold and got $900 million,
it
which
was
they think
undervalued.
was worth it.
Well, we thought it was undervalued. And part of what they were saying, that it was strategic and it was profitable, was because of they were doing, what do you call it, social interventions, they were blah, blah, blah. Is that part of the telecom business? That was not why we voted, for them to come and do social interventions in other places. You understand what I'm saying? So besides that one, I just want to say that the minority has no voice to come out and even ask or say that the government of the NDC is being secretive, is inconsistent, and is doing secret dealings. There was more secret dealings in the Vodafone Telecom case. Ghana accepted it and it moved on. So, from what I heard, the Minister of Communications says that it's not a merger and it's not an acquisition. As I sit, there's nothing that I can say because, as it is, he has not come out with a definite policy statement on this issue.
So,
So my conclusion is that this whole talk about secret dealings and whatnot should hold, because it is something that has happened before. We have lived with it. People defended it, and I am sure when this thing comes out, the NDC will also defend it. But the only thing that the Ghanaian public is asking is better services from a national telecom service. And if anything can be done to do that, it's welcome.
now, if I get you correctly, you're saying that the Vodafone, the Ghana Telecel and Vodafone deal was bad enough.
Yes.
And we endured it.
And we endured it.
There are critics who say that if that was the case, then when the then late President John Mills, you remember that this whole thing was in August of 2008, then John Mills won the elections later
July,
December.
August.
And one of the things he said was that this was a bad deal. He set up a committee which also said that it wasn't in the interest of the country. Now, months later, there were people who were even putting pressure on the then president to come out with whatever bad thing that he found on it. And people felt that the NDC government then couldn't get anything to hang the then Kufuor administration on to indeed say that this bad was bad enough. Which was why perhaps critics may also say, your case has been in court for that long. Or how come we haven't been able to come out with the fact to prove that indeed it was such a shameful thing for us to do?
You know, one of the things that people vote against governments in this country is corruption. And I think corruption crept in. Visits to Chatham House changed a whole lot of things. You understand? There are things that there were so many allegations of what happened behind the scenes in Chatham House. And Chatham House had the interest of Vodafone because it was Vodafone UK. You understand? And therefore, people who were even in demonstrations and whatnot came out. Later on, we had so many stories. So it is something that is common in our governance structure and our politicking. You get me? We will go over all this again. That's why I said what the public needs right now is a telecom service that will be good enough to compete with MTN and give us good service. That's all that we want. Because if you're going to go talking about what happened, worse happened. What's happened? And we still stuck to it. And we expected Vodafone to be that telecom service that would partner with Ghana with our 30% and give us good service, but we didn't get it. And we are still at it.
Let me come to Madam Gloria Foribwedu. Good morning to you, ma'am, if you can hear us. Thank you as well for joining us. Hello? Okay, we seem to be having a challenge with the line to Gloria Foribwedu. Hello, ma'am, if you can hear us. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Beatrice. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I hope you're well.
Yes.
Yes, I don't know whether you've had the chance to listen to the submissions of Gabby, she says I should call her, and then Madam Ayana on this new deal, as it were, Vodafone, AirtelTigo. And if you could kindly adjust your video for us before we see you. What's your initial thought on it? Because both women in the studio think that the minority doesn't have a voice in this. We saw what happened with the Ghana Telecom Vodafone deal.
Well, as a citizen of Ghana, I will say that this is not a minority or majority matter. Of course, the other panelists have gone through the history and given some horrendous, one-sided, reportage of what happened during history. So I'm not here to, what do you call it? Question that because we don't hear the other side. We do not have the other side there. But all I will say is that if the business deal is not a merger or an acquisition, what actually is it? Can we know? Because we are Ghanaians, maybe we don't want to repeat any mistakes of the history. We want a sustainable telecom industry, which is state-owned. We want it to be sustainable so that come 10 years from now, when students of business are studying what has taken place between Telecel, Airtel, and Tigo, they will know exactly what it is, if it's not a merger or an acquisition. So I think that the minister also has that duty and should come again and explain to us and give us all the governance and ethics that is involved in this business transaction, which involves our citizens' property.
You heard both Gabby and Madam Ayana saying that, especially Gabby, saying that the deal is not done yet. The minority is just going ahead of itself. You do not think, based on what she said, that perhaps it would be great if the minority waited for the final transaction, as it were, to be brought to the public?
I can't speak on behalf of the minority, but I can speak as a citizen that we are all interested. We need to know. The right to information is out there, so we need to know. It's our right to know what is going on. And some of us have also been with, I remember it was Vodafone, and before then it became Telecel, and before then there was something else. I can't even remember, but we've been, loyal customers of that business. So we want to know what exactly is happening. If it's not a merger, if it's not an acquisition, what is it?
Now, you have described the submissions by both women here as horrendous and one-sided narrative.
No, I'm not saying their submission is horrendous. I'm saying they've given a history of what happened in the past. And to me, that is quite horrendous. But it's a one-sided history. And I'm not in the position to look at the other side. And we do not have anyone there to tell us the other side. But as a Ghanaian citizen, I don't want that to happen. We want to know. We have the right to know. The right to know.
But again...
And also a loyal customer of Telecel for probably almost... probably 20-something years, so we want to know what is going on. And every Ghanaian has the right to know.
Now, part of the history is what the then communications minister told us, Esla Owusu-Ekufo, that indeed the government was going to invest in this AirtelTigo deal at the time it was acquired. The 100% stake was acquired. Madam Tete thinks that there was a failure on the part of the then government to do as it promised. How do you respond to that? Which is the reason we are where
Well,
we
I
are?
keep repeating myself that I'm not in the capacity to respond to that. I'm only in the capacity to ask for what is going on. So let me repeat myself again. I can't answer to that history. And there's nobody there to answer in your studio. But I can answer that I'm a Ghanaian citizen and a loyal customer of Telecel, and I want to know what is going on so that our company does not suffer, but rather become sustainable and profitable, as is always the purpose and objective in all the world of business.
Indeed. So, fortunately, you're a lawyer yourself. I want to get your thought on what you expect to happen in this
I have
deal.
said it, my dear Beatrice.
Yes, yes, but in terms of your understanding, because we heard Madam Tete
well, I
telling
can't
us.
speak to it because
Just
now
a
we don't
second.
know what it is.
Madam
If it was a
Glory,
merger, then we'll look at the laws. If it was an acquisition, then we could. But now we don't know what it is.
Just a second.
So the minister should let us know.
So let me land on my question. What I'm asking you is that already we've heard complaints from Gabby, who's telling us that she is also a customer of AirtelTigo. She doesn't seem to enjoy the kind of services that she would appreciate as a customer of a network, and she thinks that Ghanaians, including herself, deserve better. You are a customer yourself. What kind of services do you expect, even as the government goes ahead with this? And already we've been told that KPMG, the transaction advisor, is yet to come out with really what would be the best way forward regarding this deal.
I want the best service. Just like Gabriel, I want the best service. And I also want to know what is going on.
You want to know what is going on. I want you to hold on for us. Gabby, I want to get your quick thought on what Madam Ofori-Boadu just told us. She thinks that your narrative, and I just read it back to her, is horrendous and one-sided. She doesn't think that you're giving us the full picture as we should see.
You know, this morning I woke up very cheerful. And I don't want anything to spoil my mood. So let's take that part of the expression out. And then let me give her the assurance. And to all the good people of Ghana who are on the Telecel network and those on the, especially those on the AirtelTigo network, that government is pursuing their interest. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that when I pick up a phone and I want to make a phone call, I can call whoever I need to call. And if I want to access the internet, I have fast internet, and that my call rates and my data prices, costs are reasonable. So the idea of having an institution like KPMG to offer us advice on the way forward is in the interest of all of us. At the end of the day, as I mentioned earlier, there are many options available to governments in this instance. Whether AirtelTigo is going to be a standalone by itself and then we find the resources, the money to put inside, or whether we're going to have a public-private partnership between AirtelTigo and whoever and what the equity sharing is, or whether we're going to have a management arrangement with whoever. So, again, let's just let the consultants do their job. Let's be patient with them so they give us the best value and what is the interest of all of us. If I'm unable to make those networks, believe you me, I'm the first person to go on social media for my party to come and insult me because I'll say what I want to say. You understand? So we plead with everybody, let's allow due process to go on. Let the KPMG do what they have to do. I think yesterday I was talking to Honorable Sam George, and he mentioned that today the ministry will issue a press release to give the public the assurance that everything is going on well. So ignore the minority. Look, I am very sure the minority has met with the Canadians to sort them out.
And that's
that
the point.
is why they went to organize that press conference.
We don't have the minority here to respond to this allegation.
Other than that,
I don't know why they are rushing.
Why are you rushing?
Is it not the same stance? I mean, when parties are in position for them to be coming out with allegations and all of that, is it not
Honorable
the
Sam
stance
George
of
is their
all?
colleague in Parliament. Every day you see him coming and going. You can't ask him, I say, KPMG, or he's your friend. You can't pick the phone and call him and find out where the deal has reached. You have to go and organize press conference and go and lie about 1 billion. Hey, LPP.
There's nothing to do now.
Madam Ayana, let me get your thoughts on really what Madam Glory Ofori-Boadu told us. She said that we shouldn't make this a minority government issue. She's a citizen and she equally wants to enjoy good service. And we should have some level of clarity.
That's the truth. Sitting here representing the public, I think that's what we want. We want a service that is going to be good, sustainable, and all that.
And doesn't think you also gave full picture of the situation. In
Exactly.
terms of
And I'm glad that there is something called, in this new age of technology, she can go anywhere and search for it. So that if a president signs a document and it's Vodafone UK, and Parliament ratifies a document and it's Vodafone Holland, it's all there. She can go and find out. She can go to the Hansard. She can go anywhere and find out. So if she doesn't know, then it's fine. But unless she knows something that I don't know, and I'll be willing for her to share that with us. Yeah. But I think that the public just needs a telecom service that works. Because I'm also a subscriber of AT, and I'm not getting good service. It's very difficult even to access internet, and that is very disheartening. So we are all hoping that we get a network that will serve Ghanaians and be Ghanaian owned.
And offer competition to MTN.
And be a competitive.
Because the
which was what we heard as you tell us at the time.
Yes,
that's the transaction
was going to bring about.
Exactly, that we needed to give MTN the best competition.
Sometimes you look at Telecel, and then for one of the things that came with Telecel, it was supposed to be even the fixed lines. How many fixed lines are there? That was one of the reasons that they were given. We weren't even talking about mobile phones and things, but it was fixed lines. And then the schools, the problems we are having in our schools now with mobile phones, young people going with mobile phones and the likes. If these fixed lines were working properly, by now we wouldn't be having those kinds of problems.
We still have Telecel fixed line in right
here.
Yeah,
some of us have, but
yes.
For those who are using it for businesses and things, they're doing it. But mostly that's what's useful. We are not using it mostly in our homes.
I want to come back to you, Madam Gloria Foribuedu. And the question I want to ask you, perhaps two questions in one. Again, you mentioned that you're not speaking for the minority, but the main issue is that there should be some transparency. What level of transparency do you expect? And really, as a lawyer yourself, really whether or not you have issues, broader issues regarding the governance of public-private partnerships like we're seeking to have, at least per what we are told.
Well, I'm not speaking on behalf of only myself, but I'm speaking on behalf of the principles, the ethics, and the governance of business, okay? That's why I'm saying that we have a right to have some form of transparency, some form of accountability. Let us know what is going on. Is there a best practice? Let us know. Maybe not being an acquisition or merger is a better practice than what happened in the past. I'm saying maybe, because I'm not in a position to talk about the past. But if it is, then let's know what is the best practice or the better way that is coming out, which will be sustainable and which will also allow us to enjoy better services as loyal customers of Telecel. And then what is good for Ghana in the future.
Yes, so I wanted some specifics from you because we heard Madam Ayana say that.
My dear, you seem
please hold on. Let me.
Want me to repeat
Madam
myself. I've said everything I should
Madam
say.
Oforibuedu, if you can just.
I don't
hold
want
on.
to get personal. I don't want to.
I'm not
talk
asking
about
you to be personal
and all that. I just want to stick to the issues. That's what matters. Because at the end of the day, that's what will benefit us as Ghanaians.
Madam Oforibuedu, if you had
Gloria,
just
please.
yes.
Or you refuse to Beatrice. Why you don't know me? Don't call me, man. Call me Auntie Gloria.
Okay, Auntie Gloria, please.
Exactly.
If you would
Gabriel
just
asked you to call her Gabriel. I'm also asking you to call me Auntie Gloria.
Okay, Auntie Gloria.
Don't stress yourself.
Auntie Gloria, if you would kindly,
yes, darling.
if you kindly allow me to land, which is that you're asking for transparency, and I'm saying that Madam Ayana was earlier saying, for instance, the Ghana Telecom Vodafone deal. I mean, she claimed that there were papers that were signed, agreements signed in rooms and all of that. So when you ask for
some in hotels,
yes,
which
so,
I wasn't privy to, so I can't tell whether something was signed.
So I'm not asking you
and I wouldn't want to do that.
I'm not asking you to repeat the same thing. What I'm saying is that when you ask for some level of when you ask for transparency, what is the level? Are you asking the government to tell you how much, which assets are going to be managed? Because she even talked about the fiber bit, which wasn't part of the agreement, and yet Vodafone took it. So that's what I'm asking specifically. What kind of or level of transparency are you expecting this deal, whichever way it goes?
In this field of business, there are global benchmarks, global standards. And since we are the citizens and we have a share in it, the government knows exactly what those global standards are, what those benchmarks are, and then what the governance aspects are. So they should just abide by it. And then maybe we can clap for them, when history is written, and we wouldn't complain about something being signed in a hotel and all that. We don't want that to happen.
Would you agree, however, that even as we await KPMG to bring us the final report as regards the way forward, perhaps anybody who is interested should just wait until the deal is done? And
I believe so. I believe that's very important. And now that we are all calling on government to be up and doing and to know exactly what is happening, we hope that that will happen.
I'll come back to you for your final word on this, but I'm coming to you, Gabi. We heard all the nice things the former communications minister told us. Eslowusu, we're going to invest, the value of this about $1.3 billion and all of that. And the fact that the government was going to invest in this to make it good for us. What is the guarantee that this would work? Because this is also another transaction that is supposed to be giving competition to MTN. We've heard that before, and to ensure that we have a very strong national asset, quote unquote.
Well, we'll have to call Madam Esler and ask her to show us the proof of where her 1-point-something billion investment was put. Because if you look at the state of AirtelTigo, especially their infrastructure, it really needs some refinancing. It really needs some reinvestment to recapitalize the business. The assurance I can give you and the people of Ghana is that, first of all, we have a track record when we say that we put the interest of the people of Ghana first, especially when it comes to investments that are Ghanaian owned. Aside from the era of the Divestiture Implementation Committee, how many times have you heard us come and sell state assets in contemporary times? Because the ethos of us being social democrats is that we invest first and foremost in the state. Now, today as we speak, there are 300 jobs on the line from AirtelTigo.
Yes.
And these are people whose livelihoods is dependent on the incomes they earn from the services they provide. The guarantee we are giving them is that we are pledging that we are not interested in having anybody lose their jobs. And so, as much as possible, the financial advisors have been made to understand that whatever you are proposing must be in the interest of the taxpayer, the country Ghana, the workers of AirtelTigo, and the people who benefit from these services. Today, as we speak, this partnership that allowed AirtelTigo to ride on Telecel is saving Telecel from perpetual collapse. That should tell you that the people who are leading the communication sector know what they are about. They are competent enough that when they say that this is the processes we are going through and these are the people that we want to bring in. Look, this Canadian company that we're talking about, they signed an MOU with them. And they did due diligence on them, whether to accept the proposal first of all or not. And the due diligence, they didn't come up extraordinary. And that was the reason why the financial advisors were told that continue with your job. Let's see what other prospects are available to us. So let's wait for the financial advisors. They will tell us, how do we recapitalize AirtelTigo? Because that is very important moving forward. For us to salvage the situation.
And again, that was the same point as Owusu then made. And of course, the people were not sacked, they were retained. So the question is...
It's about credibility of the government. So you hold the NDC to it. That as Owusu said it and nothing came out of it. But we are holding, and we want you to hold us accountable to it. That we are saying that we are ready and willing to recapitalize AirtelTigo. But we want the best option for subscribers, for workers, for taxpayers, and for the people of Ghana.
The other question is that we seem to always have a problem when government is investing. We don't seem to see through to it. It almost doesn't work, or almost always doesn't work. What kind of proper governance structures do we need to put in place to ensure that some of these things work, such that if eventually it has to be a public-private partnership, it's even for the better?
First of all, it's about the quality of people that you have in the leadership of these organizations. If you take over a company, like how we took over AirtelTigo, and then I don't even know who's leading AirtelTigo now, but clearly I don't want to discredit anybody, but we are here. That's all I'm saying. We are here. So it's about the quality of the management of whoever leads whatever comes out of this process. It's also about the credibility and the people or investors who we are now partnering for this new venture. If it's, I don't want to come back and rephrase Telecel, but whoever it is that shows interest in partnering with AirtelTigo has to be somebody who understands that the main agenda, aside protecting jobs and providing better services, is also to help get a credible competitor for MTN. Because if we're able to find a credible competitor for MTN, you and I, who also other have more MTN lines, all these 2 lines here are all MTN, we also now get other benefits from better quality services, better data prices, and all that. All I think we'll be making noise about forcing Sam George to go and negotiate on our behalf. We'll be able to get all those things by virtue of the competition that has now come into the industry. So the credibility of whoever partners AT is important. And this business of people come in and then they promise and we are going to inject so capital and we don't see the money. That we should also be wary of those kind of investors coming in. If somebody comes and says, I want to partner you for so, you should show us at least whether you have bank guarantees or your financial show that you can capitalize. Because we don't want to experiment. We've been experimenting with these 2 to now 3 telecoms, and these are all Ghana government, and Ghana has equity in all these 3, right? Well, let me say 2, because AirtelTigo is now 1 now.
Yes.
But government has equity in all this, and we've been experimenting with trying to get something to compete with MTN for a very long time. And the conversations we're having is not new. This same conversation happened at Vodafone One Touch, Ghana Telecom. This same conversation happened when Zain came. This same thing came when Ariba took over from Space Phone. All these conversations, we've been repeating the same thing over and over and over and over again.
With different names.
With different names. So let's try and see something better. And I'm very convinced that the government and the leadership of His Excellency John Mahama and Sam George is a very innovative young man, actually.
So I want to ask you the same question, Madam Ayana, because really that's sometimes where the problem is, where you don't seem to have the proper governance systems to ensure that whichever partnerships you're going into, or even if it's the government that wants to take it wholly, like we saw with the AirtelTigo deal, it works. And we've heard Gabi say that perhaps it's a matter of quality of management and credibility of the teams that are doing this.
Exactly. That's what we're looking for. Credibility. Management must be up to the task. It's not a question of just putting somebody in a job, but we must be sure that whoever is going to be leading that group will do a good job. And that is all that we're looking for. And so we are hoping that the minister, and together with all the others that are with it, and the KPMG would come out with a definite plan that would be good for this country. But sometimes I also ask myself, why is it that sometimes we don't look inward? Like, we don't look... Ghanaians have money. There are Ghanaians who have got money.
Not this kind of money.
But, they have money. They have money. Ghanaians have money. I mean, if you look at the amount of money that... In fact, amount of money that we claim is out there, Ghanaians should have been able to do it. I wish that we could get some Ghanaians, maybe government could have floated some shares for all of us to own a bit of it. Which would help everybody. Sometimes when you know that you have a piece in something, even when it's not doing so well, you allowed us to complain.
Before you get to the stock exchange, they expect to see, Ghana Stock Exchange, they expect to see some profitability in your business before they accept you there. But we can't go with losses. Because, so we have to fix this before we get there.
I know, because PBC went and I got 3 seats.
I want to come
for shares, so I do know that it's quite a heavy task, but I'm only saying that I wish that, we would have that opportunity as Ghanaians to be able to buy shares in some of these state-owned enterprises.
Where your heart is, your money is, or where your money is, your heart is.
That's it. We all have our hearts in there, and we all have our eyes and our ears in there, so maybe it will help. But All that I can say is that listening to the minister would have to wait because we don't know exactly what is coming. So after he has said it, then we can have a good conversation.
Auntie Gloria, we are having Madmayana tell us perhaps we should just distribute it so that all of us will have our hat in this deal and then we're able to scrutinize things properly. But there are those who are also proposing that why won't the government...
I think that is an excellent point. In fact, when we are talking of business sustainability, I can't hear.
Okay, I think she's been distracted a little bit. We'll get back to her on it. But really, let me perhaps stay with you. What do you see as the impact of credibility, as we've heard Gabby tell us, on this whole deal moving forward?
Managing people, especially when you have a group of people and you have that top there, the management, doing so well, and people, the workers, actually believing in the credibility, the abilities, the capabilities of that person, somehow they give out their best. If you look at the way the MTN system works, you see that every one of them that is working there owns part of the company. When I say they own it, because they know that the success of the company is such that they will benefit. They have free medical care, blah, blah, blah. So everybody is interested. So you need to get somebody who is right on top of the job. We do not want to just bring in just anyone. The person must have had some success somewhere. So the person must show us what he or she has done before. We are not going to have trial and error.
But the terrains and the markets are different, even if they've had success somewhere.
Yes, the terrains are different, but you must be able to at least innovate. Make sure that we get some good things coming out of whatever experience you've got. You understand? So those are some of the things that we should be looking at. And we should be looking at somebody that will be acceptable. You see, Ghanaians, that is our main problem. If it's a state-owned entity and the person is not acceptable to all of us, then there's always that problem. It's because this person brought her or she or he as a manager or as CEO or as head of this. That is why it is not working. So let's get someone that is also acceptable.
So even within the internal systems of these companies, we should have people that will be accepted by the generality of the workers who will be working in that space.
Let them have that feel of this is the person who knows what he's doing and where he or she is taking us. This is one of the things that we need, because you see, sometimes we have state enterprises and then we just put anybody there and then they go sometimes they don't even have an idea, an inkling of what they are supposed to be doing. So the workers then have a field day. You know, they go and they don't do the things that they're supposed to do, and you cannot check them because you also don't know. Let's not have that kind of person. Let's have a hands-on person. You know, I see our minister as a hands-on person. He wants to do something, he walks the talk, he goes around. So let's have somebody who is really interested. And so far, I can say, you know, that so far, heads of institutions that I have seen that the government has appointed have done very well. They are walking their talk. They're all moving around. And that's what we're looking for.
I'm coming back to you, Auntie Gloria. You were making a point earlier that the earlier submission by Madmayana was an excellent one. You were going to expatiate on that.
Because, you know, I recently did a will for a client who was willing his shares in MTN. And I was like, wow, the man believes so much that there's going to be sustainability. And that's what we need for our state-owned or partly state-owned institutions. That they should look at sustainability. 10 years from now, 20, 30, 40, 50, there must be something going on. And the issue of shares, getting the public involved, okay, it's also excellent. Can we make the business so attractive that people will want to invest in it, have own shares, will them on, knowing that the business will still be viable in the near future? That's something that we should be looking at, even if the business is partly state-owned or fully state-owned. And that's what we expect of this Telecel venture. That's why we want to know. We want to peek. We want to see what is going on. We want to appreciate what is behind the scenes, particularly if it's not a merger or an acquisition. What is it? How viable will it be? And my humble advice to the minister is that there are people in the system who understand this business. They do. They've negotiated in the past. They know about what it means to have public-private sector participation and partnerships. He should get some of them involved, irrespective of party color, because at the end of the day, Ghana belongs to all of us.
Ghana belongs to all of us, you say. Earlier, I was asking the question about what kind of governance structures we need, because a lot of the time when we see government embarking on these things, we don't really get to see the positive end or side of things. What kind of structures really moving forward would you expect to be implemented so that the point you made earlier about the need for sustainability is what we see at the end of the day?
It's all parts of governance. Governance, when we talk of governance, accountability, transparency, openness, sustainability, profitability, there are all these global benchmarks that we continue to teach in business schools and learn, and then also gather from experience. Let's mobilize it, and then let's see the way forward.
Let me ask you this before you take leave of us. The Education Minister, Haruna Idrisu, is saying that the government or the ministry is going to convert some Category B schools to A just to help with the pressure that a lot of parents and children have had to face just trying to get placement in schools. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's about time we looked at that. Because I always say that I went to Achimota School, which has a lot of land, including golf courses, but there's been no development over the years. There's not been much. There has been development, but there has not been much. And the population is expanding. So we need some form of innovation, some form of, there was this innovation of free SHS, which I hope is still ongoing by the past administration of MPP. We should come up with more innovation. So let's look at innovation in education, innovation in education in respect of our population expansion, and some innovation that even the world will look at. Because I know that some people are like, oh, if you went to Ghana, you went to school in Ghana, then you were more likely to be in a boarding school, which does not happen in some other parts of the world. Few places in the world are able to get that majority of their, populace, school-going populace in boarding schools. But Ghana has that, notable feature in our education. So innovation is great and it's key.
In addition to the innovation, do you see this proposal from the minister increasing or helping with fairness and access to schools?
Well, it's a policy that is going to be added, right? There are different policies in education. The free SHS is there, and then this policy is coming up. Let's see, and let's pray, and let's hope. And I believe that those formulating the policy will give us the benchmark for increased participation in education for our youth.
Thank you so much.
And their families, because families are always involved.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Auntie Gloria, for joining us.
You are always welcome. Have a nice day.
We wish you the same. She's already gone, but I'm sure she would hear you. But let me come to you, Madam Mayana. What's your thinking about this proposal coming from the Honorable Haruna Idrisu?
Education. I am an old school. So sometimes I am set in my mind on certain ways. And I am a believer that in every country, you must have some Ivy League schools. And those schools are supposed to groom the leaders, the managers, and the likes in society. So years ago, when it was brought about that we were all equal before the law, which is true, and therefore we should open all gates for everybody to come in. And that's what happened. Now we have no particular school that you would say this is the school. I am one of those who think that that is wrong. I think that we all have our capabilities. I believe that when you have a weakness in something, you need to go to through a different system, which will sort of like groom you out of that weakness. And so if you're weak and you're put into a place of strength, if you're not careful, you either shrink into it or you can just level up with them.
Would that not be entrenching the bourgeoisie kind of system?
But that is, you see, whether you like it or not, bourgeoisie system does not come from schools. bourgeoisie system comes sometimes from our homes as well, from our backgrounds. Whatever you do, people don't seem to understand that even when you take somebody and you put the person in an A-class school that is supposed to be elitist or whatever, at the end of the day, that person sometimes comes out even worse off. Because nature is like that. You go into a place and then you start thinking, oh, I don't belong here. Everything is different. Some people are not able to cope.
As in the difficulties of society, which is the reality of a lot of
so
people.
I think that it would be good to have a lot more A schools. I think that what we need is more infrastructure in schools, like in certain areas. And I believe that every region must have an A school. Every region must have an A school. Growing up, you would say that, okay, if you had Navrogo Secondary School, which was equivalent to Achimota School, you get me, or in Fansipem, or Adisado. So whatever happens, the A schools are still the A schools. You can't do anything about it. But those A schools, at the end of the day, it is the old students most of the time who actually keep those schools alive. You get me? The contributions we make towards those schools. Government alone cannot carry the burden of those schools. So you end up saying that everybody is allowed to go to a certain school. You get there. The situation is such that you just don't fit into the school. So sometimes they draw back. You get me? I know of a young lady who was so enthused by me.
And if you could be wrapping up your thoughts so I can get Gabby's thoughts.
And felt that she wanted to go to Achimota School. And I told her, I said, you don't have what it takes, you know, to go to the school because of these reasons. You cannot match up. You need a place where everybody is at the same level with you, and then they'll be able to help you. And she did. She said no. So she went. Her parents changed her to another school, and whatever happened, she got admitted to Achimota School. She flunked. You know, she ended up with a brain fag. And she later came and told me I shouldn't have gone. If I had gone to this other place, I would have been better off. And the whole thing was that, oh, this was that, they were this. So all I'm saying is that it's a very good idea, very, very good idea to upgrade all those schools. But I don't think there should be any downgrade of any school. All of them should be upgraded. And every district, every region must have an A school. And it's the infrastructure and the logistics. That's the difference. You understand? Because if you go to a school and you don't have accommodation, for instance, as a teacher, how are you going to give off your best? You're always in the classroom and you're thinking of accommodation. If you go to a school and you don't have toilet facilities, how do you manage it? If you go to a school and you don't have a good classroom and a rated classroom, how do you manage it? So how come some schools have got all these things and are still even putting up more? Some schools are doing computer science and they don't even have computers. They've never seen something, you know, that kind of thing. They are doing home science and they still have problems with, you know, being taught microwaves. The differentials is just varied. So we have to take it one step at a time. But every region must have an A school.
Every region must have an A school. Gabi, what's your thought on what Madam Ayana has just told us? And that question thrown in by Madam Gloria before she left, that she hopes that you're continuing with the infrastructural works that her government started. You're in government, tell us.
Before I jump, let me just say the last conversation we're having. KPMG was given 60 days to come up with a feasibility on the options. So in a few days, the minister will give an update on the status of that. On the grade A schools, we have a lot of grade A schools in my region. But I have to tell you that it's not infrastructure. It's about the quota. For us, it's about the quota. Because for us, we have Infantipim, Wesley Girls, Holy Child, Adesada, Augustus, now they're even adding National and Agri and all these other institutions, Infantiman. But our people, and lastly, when we go for the election, we are campaigning that we are going to increase Central Region quota in the Central Region schools. And unfortunately for us, it's been hell getting our people into those schools because at the end of the day, we are national they are national assets, and we have to open up to everybody. And it's not easy in the region. Currently, as we speak, I think today is the last day, or yesterday was the last day of this school placement thing. It has not been easy.
I'm sure they are watching you keenly and listening to what
they are watching.
Them.
I don't know what we are going to say 2028, but from, in fact,
they need more
we need a quota. Honorable Harun, or any of these people are listening. They should listen. We need the quota to increase our numbers. But it is true that these schools need infrastructure upgrades, because if you take a place like Wesley Girls, the sheer demand on Wesley Girls alone this year, I mean, there were a lot of qualified people, sometimes even people from my own region, who be sending their children's transcripts. Yeah. And they have like 6 A's, straight A's, but they couldn't get into the school because of the number of people who have qualified to also enter these schools. And everybody wants their child to get into a Wesley Girls or a Holy Child or an Infante or an Augustins, because it's not a question of the brand of the school. It's also about the kind of network that you have when you exit the school.
So in that case, I mean, how do they select if you have about 100 people all having straight A's? Because we've had some parents complaining that they had the same
The computer does it.
But we've had some parents complaining.
There's a way they do it.
Yeah, even the first part is that the computer does it. Yeah. And then if there are like, out of 1,000 students, let's say there are more than 1,000, because even the school takes more than 1,000. Let's say there are like 56,000, and Wesley Girls can take 1,000. Out of that 56,000, don't be surprised that you have 1,000 students in this country who have straight A's throughout. Yeah. And the system will choose all of them first. And some people will get a few B's here and there, but they will not get access into it. But there are other small pockets that you can use to enter. Like Old Girls Association have a 10% quota. The Methodist Church has some small quota. The community has only 10 slots. 10 slots. The whole community has only 10 slots. In the school that is taking 1,000, to put that on record. That's why we want increase in quota. So it's important that we upgrade their infrastructure. Wesley Girls, for example, has a lot of land. We share boundaries. We are neighbors. We just share a wall. So they have land that can be utilized. But aside that, it's also important that we also invest in schools that have the potential to become grade A schools. A grade A school is not just a named institution. It comes with certain things. For example, there's a reason why when you go to the Ghana Medical School, over 70% of the females are from Wesley Girls. Yeah. Because we have sophisticated science laboratories and we have very good science teachers. So it flows out of the school. You understand? So it's not just a question of saying we want everybody should be upgraded to a grade A, or just they having buildings and stuff. It comes with other things. There's other logistics that comes with this. The quality of the teachers who are employed to teach there. This particular computer placement, school intake, for example, we had more schools available and places available than the students who sat for their exams. But yet, people are struggling because everybody is looking at a particular selected few institutions. So what the minister said is spot on. We need to find a way to upgrade this, expand infrastructure in this, because everybody wants their child there. And as I mentioned, it's not just about a branded name. It's about a certain network that comes out with you, especially associations.
And I'll come back to you for your final word, as well as to you, Madam Ayana. But let's go to Mr. Kofi Asare, who is the Executive Director for the Africa Education Watch. He joins us via video call. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Morning.
Let me get your preliminary thoughts on this proposal coming from the Education Minister, which we understand is expected to be implemented from next year, all things being equal. Is this a good course?
I think it's a good idea to upgrade senior high schools. The demand for senior high schools is pointed at Category A and Category B schools. Category A and Category B schools are no longer the exceptional schools, grade A scoring schools, schools meant for elite, in terms of academic performance, etc. The narrative has changed. Today's Category A schools are schools with facilities that befit the status of a standard senior high school. That's a Category A school, not top quality performance. So I wanted to correct that. a school like Abomosu STEM School, Pasenkwe STEM School, Bosomtrain STEM School. These are all category A schools. They have no academic track record. So it's about facilities upgrade to a standard level. And so by admitting that we need to upgrade more Bs to As and then also expand more As, it is a tacit admission of the fact that the Ghanaian parent expects standard facilities at the secondary level. And once the standard facilities are there, whether it's Kwasenkwe or Mosu or whether it's Bosomtre girls, they will attend. And that's why today, a school like Kwasenkwe, it was subscribed. 2 years ago when it started, they were struggling to get 400. Now they are doing over 700, oversubscribed. And so it is just a call or an admission by the minister that the demand for secondary education is pointed at schools where facilities are standard. And so schools with those standard facilities are category A and B. And once we are adapting that the standard for secondary education in Ghana should be facilities akin to that of A or B, then we must go ahead and point at that direction in terms of expansion of facilities. The most important thing is that, one, I think that we must be mindful that we are aiming to increase the share of TVET and STEM of the general secondary education population. And so the ministry is looking at building 20 schools. At least 20% should go for TVET because broadly we should be reaching 20% TVET share of the general secondary education population by 2030. You can only do so if you are committing at least 20% of new secondary education infrastructure to TVET. The second is that as we progress along that path, we shouldn't lose sight of the upgrading required in the other lower category schools. Some may not require comprehensive upgrade from category C to category B. Some require furniture, just furniture. Some require furniture. The last time I checked, the furniture deficit was about 280, or it's about 700,000 student furniture deficits in our secondary schools.
Across the country?
Yes, across the country. There was a deficit of 18,000 dormitory rooms, not blocks, dormitory rooms, estimated. And then also teacher accommodation, 18,000 teacher flats they needed, 70,000 student furniture. Even if you go to the schools that I am praising this morning, like Pasenkwe, which is a new STEM school, in view of the new numbers that they are admitting this year, that's about 700. Against their original capacity of 600. They need more furniture. You understand? And so what I want to say is that as we upgrade, let's not lose sight of the fact that we need infrastructure. We need some minor interventions in the area of school furniture and then renovations to put some of the schools in usable, if you like, shape. Lastly, faculty capacity. Category A, Category B is not just a function of facilities and infrastructure, but also having teachers to teach in all the program areas. That is what makes a school get a demand that it requires. So if you build a school, you procure facilities, everything, and the teachers are not there, you will struggle to get a demand. So it's important for us to also pay attention to building faculty capacity as we upgrade infrastructure and facilities.
Thank you very much, Mr. Asare, for joining us.
Thank you.
And it was right there, Kofi Asare. He's the Executive Director, Africa Education Watch. That'll be it for the big issue. We've also had with us Madam Gloria Ofori-Boadu. She said I should call her Auntie Gloria. Managing Legal Practitioner, GOB Law Consult, and also lecturer. We've had with us as well Madam Rodelyn Imoro Ayana, who is a public interest advocate. And of course, with us, Gabriela Teta. She said I should call her Gabi. She's the Central Regional Communications Director of the Governing National Democratic Congress. Thank you so much for joining us.